Hi readers, welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads. Lee here, and welcome to Book Talk Tuesday. Usually on Book Talk Tuesday, I pick a theme and then I talk about different books within that theme. But right now, still the beginning of the year, I'm going to do something a little bit different. And I want to talk about my January, February to-be-read list. Admittedly, this is not as diverse a list as I would like, but I am in kind of a gothic-y British era right now, and I am reading a lot of women, with the exception of the book I'm reading right now. And so this kind of continues on that gothic-y women writer thing for a couple books, and then it goes into a completely different direction. One of these books I'm already thinking about pulling out of the stack and exchanging it for another, but I'll talk about that when I get here. This TBR, this is the first year I've actually really kind of built a pile of books I want to read within a certain time period. Mostly I just go with the flow, whatever. But this time I really kind of wanted to direct my reading and bump up books that I'm excited about right now. That does not mean I won't get to some books that I was excited about years ago, and one of those is in this pile. But let's start. On the 14th of January, Clever Little Thing was published. Clever Little Thing is by Helena Echlin. I believe that's how you pronounce her last name. I discovered this book on Patreon, on Mother Horror's channel, Patreon page, whatever. And I read, because she put out, it was a new release, I read probably the first 2 pages online, and I went straight to the Barnes & Noble website and ordered it to pick up in store later that day. Let me tell you what this is about. I'm excited. This will probably be the next book that I read after the one I'm currently reading. Charlotte's daughter, Stella, is sensitive and brilliant, perhaps even a genius, but a recent change in her behavior has alarmed her mother. Following the sudden death of Stella's babysitter, Blanca, the once disruptive and antisocial child has become docile and agreeable. But what's unsettling is that she has begun to mirror Blanca's personality. From Blanca's repetitive phrases to her accent, slow down, Lee, to fierce cravings for Armenian meat stew after being raised a vegetarian. Charlotte is pregnant with her second child and depleted and sick with the pregnancy. She is convinced that Blanca herself is somehow responsible for Stella's transformation. But how could Blanca, dead, still be entwined in their lives? Has Blanca somehow possessed Stella? Has Stella become Blanca? As Charlotte becomes increasingly obsessed, she's sure that only she can save her daughter, even though it's soon clear that her husband believes this is all in Charlotte's head. I am really excited to read this. Like I said, I read the first 2 pages online, and that was it. I knew I had to have this book. I knew I also need to clean up my desk because I don't have places to place these books. Okay, so there's that. The next book, I believe you can order it a US edition of this, but I ordered this from Blackwell's in the UK because I love this cover. This is called The Fortunes of Olivia Richmond by Louise Davidson. Black sprayed edges. Just, it's a gorgeous book. And this was going to be next before I found out about Clever Little Thing. Whew. Red and white text on black cover makes it difficult for Lee to read. After a terrible tragedy upends her life, Governess Julia Purley is left with no job, no home, and no prospects. So when she's offered a position as companion to Miss Olivia Richmond, her luck appears to be turning. But Miscote House proves to be a haunting, isolated place in the wilds of Norfolk, and Olivia has a sinister reputation. The locals call her a witch. They say she can speak to the dead, and Olivia insists they're right. Olivia's father wants Julia to prepare his daughter for society, But his embittered housekeeper sees her as an intruder and will do all she can to destroy her. Even worse, Olivia seems to know far more than she should about the darkness in Julia's past that she's desperate to escape. As the danger grows and the winter chill invades the thick forest, Julia will have to fight to uncover the truth, escape her past, and save herself. We've got some really, really cold weather coming up here in North Carolina next week. There's a potential that we could actually get a little bit of snow, which will shut down the base where I work. I see this in my really near future. This, to me, like today, is a really gray, not as cold as it's going to be day. If I wasn't reading something else, this would be perfect for today. As it is, it'll have to wait till next week. When it's cold, should get some firewood. Okay. Oh, sorry. This, The Fortunes of Olivia Richmond was published on October 26, 2023 in the UK. I'm not sure if there's a pub date for the US edition. I didn't look that up. I do want to kind of shout out Blackwell's because they give free shipping to the US. They have alternate covers. They have UK covers that sometimes are better than the American editions. And sometimes you can find books that won't come out in America for another 6 months. So I love them. Next up is another new release. Most of these, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 6 that I'm going to talk about, have been new releases for January. I'm doing a little bit better on my book buying than I did last year. Actually, probably a lot better than last year. But Drew, one of my friends on Goodreads, Drew, said that this may go down as one of his favorite books of the year. And it was only like the first week of January, first full week. That is All the Water in the World by Eiren Caffall. This was published on January the 7th. I did not buy it then. I was hesitant, and then I saw that review, and I bought it. What put me off a little bit was that this is in the tradition of Station 11, and I tried to watch the show and I didn't really enjoy it. But this is a literary thriller set partly on the roof of New York's Museum of Natural History. What sealed the deal, though, before I get to the summary of what the book is about, inspired by the stories of curators in Iraq and Leningrad who worked to protect their collections from war. All the Water in the World is both a meditation on what we saved from collapse and an adventure story with danger, storms, and a fight for survival. Again, before I get to the summary of this book, tomorrow I will post a full review of Prophet Song by David Lange. That is the technically third, but it's kind of the second that I read this year, book in my Booker Prize winning book project. And this shares a theme with that, as does a lot of the Booker reading, actually, but some of where I'm going to go next. And that is about what war and totalitarianism and fascism does to people. I felt it timely. In the years after the glaciers melt, Noni, her older sister, her parents, and their researcher friends have stayed behind in an almost deserted New York City, creating a settlement on the roof of the American Museum of Natural History. The rule? Take from the exhibits only when in dire need. They hunt and grow their food in Central Park as they work to save the collections of human history and science. When a superstorm breaches the city's flood walls, Noni and her family must escape north on the Hudson. They carry with them a book that holds their records of the lost collections. Racing on the swollen river toward what may be safety, they encounter communities that have adapted in very different and sometimes frightening ways to the new reality. But they are determined to find a way to make a new world that honors all they've saved. Really, I should. I have not recorded my week in books yet. Haven't recorded the Prophet Song book review, what I should do is post my review on the 20th of January of Prophet Song. But I don't want to do that, I don't think. Anywho, that's beside the point. So the next book is one that I'm thinking of switching out. One of my projects this year is I have a ton of these, I don't know if you can see it, these carts that I get from Michael's that I put books for downstairs in. And in one of those is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. I don't know which one. So one of the projects I started on is going through and in my app on my phone, adding a location and labeling the bins so that I know what bin a book is in. So anyway, that's what I want to read, probably instead of What Happened to the McCrays, a novel by Tracey Lange. This was published on January the 14th, and I cannot remember for the life of me why I bought it, except that it is getting a lot of buzz. When Kyle McCray gets word his father has suffered a debilitating stroke, he returns to his hometown of Potsdam, New York, where he doesn't expect a warm welcome. Kyle left suddenly 2.5 years ago, abandoning the people who depended on him: his father, his employees, his friends, and not to mention Casey, his wife of 16 years and a beloved teacher in town. He plans to lie low and help his dad recuperate until he can leave again, especially after Casey makes it clear she wants him gone. The longer he's home, the more Kyle understands the impact his departure has had on the people he left behind. When he's presented with an opportunity for redemption, as the coach of the floundering middle school hockey team, he begins to find compassion in unexpected places. Kyle even considers staying in Potsdam, but that's only possible if he and Casey can come to some kind of peace with each other. This seems like a family saga. I think I might have another one of her books. So I don't know. This is definitely I'm gonna let my mood decide if and when I read this, but for now it will stay in the TBR. Next up is a blast from the past, but I'm reading this to kind of emotionally prepare for the other book that I want to get to in January. This was published on January 1st, 1998, and that is 1916, A Novel of the Irish Rebellion by Morgan Llywelyn. I have had this upstairs and carried this not around the world, but around each place I've moved in the U.S. for years. Possibly since 1998, or actually probably, oh shit. I don't remember if I ordered this or if I picked this up in Ireland, but it looks like I bought it from Kenny's Bookshop for £16.99. So I may have carried this around the world with me. So, growing up, family lore had it that our family was from Ireland and that our great-great-something grandfather jumped the ship in New Orleans to avoid staying in the Queen's Navy, and then somehow ended up in northeast Louisiana. So from the time, we heard lots of stories about that, and so from the time I was a child until, I'll tell you when, I was obsessed with Ireland. It was my dream to go there. I bought a lot of books of Irish history. I did not read them all, like I haven't read this one. And then in 2006, after I'd been working overseas and saved a lot of money, I was able finally to go to Ireland and take my mom. She flew from the US and she really wanted us to fly into Ireland together. So we met in Germany and then flew in together. And it was a wonderful trip. I went there once again after my mom passed with my sister and her family. And now my cousin wants to go. And I'd like to see other places, but she hasn't been there, so I'll have to save up my money. But For so long in my lifetime, going to Ireland and making a trip to Ireland had been my dream. And then I achieved that. And for a while, I kind of floundered. Oh, I figured out places to travel to, but I had achieved my dream. So what now? And anywho, I picked this up in Ireland or ordered it from Kenny's bookshop. And it's signed. Who knows? I wasn't there. She didn't sign it for me. So maybe I ordered it. Anywho, that is neither here nor there. When I went to Ireland, I did learn about the history of the Easter Rising. We got to see some of the sites. It was really fascinating, and I'm a history buff. The Easter Rising of 1916 was a major turning point in Irish history, inspired by poets and school teachers, fueled by a desperate desire for freedom, and played out in the historic streets of Dublin against the background of World War I. It is a story of tremendous power and unique poignancy. Ned Halloran has lost both his parents and almost his own life to the sinking of the Titanic, and has lost his sister to America. Determined to keep what little he has, he returns to Ireland and enrolls at St. Edna's School in Dublin. St. Edna's headmaster is the renowned scholar and poet Patrick Pearse, key figure in the Easter Rising, who is soon to gain greater and undying fame as a rebel and patriot. Ned becomes totally involved with the growing revolution and the sacrifices it will demand. Meanwhile, in America, his sister feels her own urge toward freedom, both for her native Ireland and herself. Kathleen, too, becomes involved in the larger struggle as America's role in the Irish fight for freedom escalates. Politics, conspiracy, and betrayal become part of a new world she never expected. And then, yada, yada, yada. There's more stories that she's written about Irish history, more novels that she's written. I will have to look at getting them at some point. But we'll see how 1916 plays out. Now, I said that I decided to read that this month-ish in preparation for another book, and that other book is my next book in my Booker Prize project. So what I'm doing on that project is I'm starting from the first book, and then, okay, technically I read Orbital, the 2024 winner, in 2024. So technically that's the first book, but I don't really count it for some reason because my head is weird. So this year I started with the 1969 winner, it's back there on the shelf somewhere, PH Newbies, Something to Answer For. Then I read Prophet Song, which was the 2023 winner. So next up is going to be the winner of the Lost Booker Prize. This book was published on January 1st, 1970, but because of a rules change issue, books in 1970 didn't get considered. So there was a vote, I think, in 2010, and this was selected as the winner of the Lost Booker Prize. Man Booker Prize at the time is what it was called. But before I talk about The Troubles by J.G. Farrell, I'm reading 1916 in prep more because I want to get that feeling. This is set in 1919, after the war. But I really want to get that 1916 to 1919 feeling about the Irish and the British and the World War that was going on at the time. So, and this does not, it's called Troubles, but from my understanding of what I've read, it doesn't really focus on the Troubles in Ireland. They're kind of a backdrop. 1919. Let me just pause a second. There's also, I think that it was in 1980s, it's available on, no, I bought it, a movie based on this book. It's kind of surreal, and the quality compared to what we have today is not as good, but I am going to continue to watch it. 1919. After surviving the Great War, Major Brendan Archer makes his way to Ireland, hoping to discover whether he is indeed betrothed to Angela Spencer, whose Anglo-Irish family owns the once aptly named Majestic Hotel in Kilnaloe. This is a fake place in Ireland. So he doesn't remember proposing to her. I don't know if it says this down in here. And in that, it reminds me of something to answer for, because in that, Towner did not know where the hell he was half the time. Neither did I. But his fiancée is strangely altered, and her family's fortunes have suffered a spectacular decline. The hotel's hundreds of rooms are disintegrating on a grand scale. Its few remaining guests thrive on rumors and games of whist. Herds of cats have taken over the imperial bar in the upper stories. Bamboo shoots threaten the foundations, and piglets frolic in the squash court. Meanwhile, the Major is captivated by the beautiful and bitter Sarah Devlin. As housekeeping disasters force him from room to room, the Order of the British Empire also totters. This, I just think we're going to see a theme of in the early Booker winners, is the collapse of the British Empire, the loss of their influence in the world. I've already seen that in the first book. And statements critical of Britain's colonialism and imperialism. Okay. There is unrest in the East, and in Ireland itself, the mounting violence of the Troubles. Troubles is a hilarious and heartbreaking work by a modern master of the historical novel. This is actually book 1 of the Empire trilogy. The next book, The Siege of Krishnapur, also won the Booker Prize, but before this one, actually. So the only thing I regret about this is there are very small words, and I am old, and my eyes aren't as good, as you can tell. Anywho, that is my TBR. I think actually the order I'm going to go is Clever Little Thing, Olivia Richmond, 1916, then The Troubles, and then the other two. I just decided that right now because I really want to get to the two Troubles before the end of January, and we've got 2 weeks left, so I think it's going to take me several days to read it. This isn't a race. I just I'd like to do it. So, anywho, that's me babbling on about my to-be-read pile. I know Victoria on YouTube has been struggling this year. I hope things get better for you. Is anybody else struggling? I was struggling from October to December, and then all of a sudden, even though there's no like door that you go through, or it's just like an invisible line between December 31st and January 1st, all of a sudden my reading changed. Like I began to enjoy it. Maybe I was making better choices. I did DNF 3 books so far this month. I don't have the patience for modern books that aren't offering me what I need at the moment. That doesn't mean I may never go back to them, because at another moment down the road, it may be what I need. But maybe I'm making better choices on the whole. Maybe I'm more focused. Who the hell knows? Thank you, as always, for sticking with me on my journey. And, as always, happy reading.